So in today's episode of What in the World is Everybody Overreacting About, it's now Jimmy Garoppolo's turn to get overreacted about. If you look at the log line, it definitely wasn't great. I'm not going to sit here and say it was. In 3 drives, he only had 1 completion. He went 1 for 6, and that 1 completion went for negative yards. So definitely not a great start by any means. But again, one of the things I do keep mentioning is that the small sample sizes are going to create some wonky stats. It's one of the weirdest things that happens in all of sports, I think, is the overreactionary period of the preseason. It's very bizarre. And honestly, if we're being real, the way it typically goes is that if it's a player you like, you say, oh, it's just the preseason, don't worry about it. And if it's a player you don't like who had a bad preseason game, well then you say, oh, see, he had a bad preseason game. Preseason does matter and he had a bad game. And listen, I do think preseason matters a little bit. I do think there is something to be had in it, but I also think at the end of the day, there's such small sample sizes, you can't really get too much of a look at how good a player is. Essentially, my point is, I don't think we learned anything about Jimmy Garoppolo in this game that we didn't already know about Jimmy Garoppolo by any means. I think people that were against the Jimmy Garoppolo contract have no more reason to be against it after this game than they were before it, and I think people that are pro Jimmy Garoppolo have no reason to be more pro Jimmy Garoppolo before this game or after it. And I'm not trying to discount his entire game. Let's be honest. He threw 6 passes and none of them were particularly good. The one that was a completion was actually a screen pass. He had very little to do with that play, so I won't even break that down. But I'll break down the other 5 just to kind of say exactly what happened so we can see exactly what happened. How much of it was him playing bad and how much of it was simply just luck? Well, let's get into it. And we'll start things off with this play. It's going to be a cover 3 zone. And for San Francisco, they have a receiver who's going to be running a quick slant route just right over the middle. So this can definitely be a great route for Garoppolo to throw to. It's a 2nd down and 6. You make this catch. You can at least pick up 3 yards, maybe pick up the 1st down, and at the very least have a 3rd down and short situation. It's a throw that should get underneath the linebackers who are in coverage. And this is definitely something that Garoppolo is going to want to take a look at. And it is something he's going to take a look at. As you see, once this ball is snapped, his receiver is open. So this is definitely a throw Garoppolo wants to make. Hit your receiver in stride. This can definitely be a 1st down right here. Garoppolo is ready to make this throw. However, there is one other thing to look at, and it's going to be that Denver Bronco who's right there. He's going to leap up and knock the ball away. Very good play. You got to give him credit there, 96. He did his part. Fantastically done. That's what I say, hey, if you get beat, that's okay. Still get your hands up. You can always have a way to impact the play in a positive manner, even if you do get beat like he did. But also for Garoppolo, that took away a 1st down from him. If that ball doesn't get tipped up, that's probably a completion and probably a 1st down. Do I blame Garoppolo for having the ball get batted away? Not really, no. Maybe you would like it for him to wait an extra second, realize what's going on. He could maybe use his eyes to try to draw the defensive lineman away. He could try to pump fake or something. There are things you can do. But at the end of the day, tip balls are just going to happen. That's just part of the luck factor of the NFL. Sometimes that just happens. Let's be honest. If you saw somebody show that play and then said, oh, see, Jimmy Garoppolo's trash, right? You'd be like, what are you talking about? The ball just got tipped at the line. So that one, kind of just a fluky play. Let's move on to this next one. And this next one was less fluky. So now it's a 3rd down and 6, obviously. And it's going to be a cover 2 man, and they have a receiver running a curl route right over there. So this is definitely a good situation for Garoppolo. A curl route is a great way to beat man coverage, and since it's cover 2 man, it'll be just one-on-one coverage. So all that receiver has to do is win his one-on-one matchup, and he can absolutely get open. However, one thing you'll notice right when this ball is snapped is that there is Bradley Chubb running straight towards Garoppolo trying to make a play. With this pressure, it absolutely is going to affect Garoppolo's throw, although if I'm being honest, he probably could have gotten out there a little bit faster as well. It's hard to really tell from that angle. I'll switch over to this angle, you can definitely see it a lot better. His receiver certainly was open for a period of time, but if I am being honest, Garoppolo should have timed that one a little bit better. Although actually now that I'm talking about it, I've kind of realized I actually think he might have ran a wrong route on this one. Because if you think about it, why would you have a curl route that's 5 yards down the field on a 3rd down and 6? Usually you wouldn't. Usually you would have it go just past the 1st down marker. Maybe the logic is this could help him get more open, and then, as long as he can just get 1 yard after the contact, then you get the 1st down. That could be. That is something teams will do, but far more often they'll just have the curl route just go past the 1st down marker. So it's also possible his receiver ran a wrong route. It's really kind of hard to tell, but it would make some sense as to why Garoppolo's throw was a little bit late and a little bit further down the field. And ends up getting picked off. I don't really know who to blame there personally. Although I guess it probably is fair to say, hey, you know what? A quarterback is a leader. A quarterback has to make sure that everyone is on the same page. So even if it was the wrong route ran there, well, hey, Garoppolo has to make sure that everybody is on the same page and everybody is running the right routes. But I also can't discount the possibility that Garoppolo just made a mistake. That's a very real possibility as well. Especially with the fact that he was getting hit as he was thrown, it could have just been a misfire. That happens too. And again, that's kind of the problem. They're not going to come out and say, yep, it was this guy's fault, this guy sucks. No, usually they'll keep those things in-house. So we do kind of have to guess on some of these things. But, either way, I think that it's fair to say Garoppolo could have done something better on that play. But I also think it's fair to say that that's far from a disaster by any means. But anyways, one thing you probably noticed is that the Broncos' defensive line was just really doing a number on the 49ers' offensive line. And I mean, we kind of expected that. Denver has a great defensive line. That's kind of just what they do. And so for San Francisco, they kind of wanted to counteract that a little bit. And one way you can do that is by actually having an empty backfield. I know that sounds kind of counterintuitive because now you don't have a halfback who could be blocking on the play. But oftentimes defenses will have an extra man drop back into coverage if they see that there is an empty backfield. That is something a lot of defenses will do, and that's what Denver is going to do on this play. Then San Francisco is going to have a receiver run right there, just right over the middle of the field, and this is the route that Garoppolo is going to look to throw to. And after the ball is snapped, you will notice he's getting open right here. As you see, he's getting ready to cut, and there are two Denver Broncos who are much further away, so there will be a window where Garoppolo can try to make this throw to, since it is going to be zone coverage. And Jimmy G will even wait a second to try to get this window as big as possible, but once again, the ball gets tipped up and it isn't able to be complete. It looked like it was just a finger that got on the ball. It was still almost complete actually, but it would have probably definitely been complete had Garoppolo got it there cleanly. Honestly, for a quarterback, those types of plays are infuriating. You do everything right, you have a receiver who's open, and then you throw a good throw, but it just gets tipped away. I mean, that's just so frustrating. But it also goes to show why you shouldn't really take statistics into account when you're talking about the preseason. You should actually watch the tape. Because, if those two tip balls were instead not tipped and they were completions, well, then Jimmy G is now 3 for 6. He has like 30 to 40 yards, and now it's a whole different game. Not to mention the ball would have gotten further downfield, he probably picks up some more yards because the drives keep going. His stats would have looked a lot better, and then nobody would be talking about him whatsoever. I mean, that's just the small sample size and the overreactionary fans of the preseason. And again, I'm trying to be clear here. There definitely are things you can take away from the preseason. Obviously, look at how many breakdowns I've made of the preseason. I wouldn't be doing this if I thought that it was completely meaningless. There is some meaning to be had. I'm just saying the real meaning is from watching the tape, not necessarily looking at the numbers. Numbers are good for big sample sizes. When you throw the ball 40 times in a game, well then the numbers actually can be a pretty good way of judging how good you are. Even that's a little bit small, but over the course of the season, when you throw 500 times a game, then it's like, okay, now you've had a big enough sample size that we can kind of tell how good you are. But with sample sizes this small, you really do have to watch the tape to see exactly what's going on. There was also this play, it's going to be a cover one hole, so it's man coverage, and then the 49ers have a receiver running that route right there. And really what I'm going to take a look at is right when this ball is snapped, take a look at right when he's about to cut. He has some space on the Denver Broncos player, however the Broncos player is also cutting in and trying to make this play. It's also worth mentioning, once again, it's a 3rd down and 6 situation, so if Garoppolo makes this throw and it's incomplete, well that's the same thing as if they gain 4 yards. You have to get the 1st down here. And so Garoppolo is going to try to hit his receiver in stride, allow him to make the catch, and then run for the 1st down. That's what he's going to try to do here. However, his receiver stumbles a little bit, doesn't catch this one cleanly, and it actually was nearly picked off. Honestly, in my opinion, that's a bad route more than it was a bad throw by Jimmy Garoppolo. That kind of goes back to the football as a team sport, and you have to have good route running if you're going to really be successful in the NFL as an offense. I know it probably sounds like I'm making excuses for Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm really not. I'm just saying, hey, some of these plays weren't really his fault. I mean, he didn't have a clean pocket on that one, so he had to make the quick throw. He had to throw it further deep to try to get that receiver to catch the ball in stride to potentially pick up the 1st down. His receiver failed him there. His receiver did not have a perfectly ran route on that one. You can't blame Jimmy G too much for that throw. Honestly, when I watched all these plays, there wasn't a single play where I was like, ooh, bad play by Jimmy Garoppolo. That just didn't happen. I'm not saying he was perfect. This next play, he definitely wasn't perfect, but also there was something out of his control that didn't go well either. What's going to happen on this play is there actually is no back in this game. It's going to be 4 wide, and what you'll notice is that Caden Smith, tight end, is going to be running a curl route right over there. And so for Denver, really the only Bronco who could make a play on it would be that Denver Bronco right there. So first we'll have to see if his receiver can get open, and he is pretty open right here. Smith has some separation and is ready to make a play. And if you look at Garoppolo's throw, it's a little bit high and a little bit to the outside. This is not a perfect throw by any means. But also Smith just doesn't come down to play. So again, that's something where I would say, Garoppolo wasn't perfect on that play, but at the same time, his teammate didn't really help him out too much. What do I always say? If you can touch the ball, you can catch the ball. He could have absolutely caught that one there. He just wasn't able to. Things were a little bit clunky in his couple of drives. They didn't run totally smooth. However, that's kind of what you expect with a guy who hasn't played football in seemingly forever. But I also think it is worth mentioning there are just a decent amount of people that are waiting for Jimmy Garoppolo to fail. And I'm not saying that if you criticize Jimmy Garoppolo, that means that you're just waiting for him to fail. Some people honestly have some valid criticisms of him. I have some what I would consider as valid criticisms of him. I do not think he's a perfect player by any means. But am I going to use a bad line in a meaningless preseason game to try to back up my valid criticisms of him? No, of course not. But again, that's just my opinion. I'd love to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching.